Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? I am Axel Raven. Welcome to the premiere, season 2, series 2, whatever you want to call it. It's the part 2, take 2, episode 1. Really excited to be here. Hope you all can hear me. I know previously in previous last year had some issues with technical stuff. Not always unmuting the right things and such, but you all have been a great help in making sure that works well. I'm live. Good. I'm good. Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. All right. We're here. We're back, baby, it says there. Season 5 of the Simulation Football League, the minor league season, episode 1. Really excited to be here. Excited to have you all here. Those watching now, those watching later on, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, that kind of thing to you all. I'm going to jump over here. I've got with me first, Daniel Wright, my main man, co-host extraordinaire. How are you doing tonight, Daniel?
I'm doing just peachy with this new webcam that I showed off at the draft, and now we can show it off here as well.
Excellent.
So it's so good to have this back. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see your beard growing a little bit longer.
Yeah, I got it trimmed actually, so it now needs to grow in again.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. I also have special guest with us tonight, Andrew Rastelli. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I have to unmute myself. Remember how to do this.
Cool.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I'm always excited to hang out with you guys and talk SFL.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Well, we are going to be getting to you probably in about 10 minutes or so. But first, we have a couple things. So normally last year, 2021, fall, winter time of that, every show we ended up having roughly 2, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 SFLM players come on, and we do a little interview with them. Tonight is no different. We have with us a couple really, both are really talkative in the minor league Gen Chat. Both have, starting to make a name for themselves on their team, have no qualms in throwing down the gauntlet, if you will, during the chat, during our pregame, preseason games, etc. First, we've got San Jose Flight's cornerback, KJ Aleixo. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm pronouncing that right. Aleixo?
Oh, you nailed it.
Awesome. I remember you putting that in the Gen Chat a month and a half ago or something. So I made a mental note for that. We also have joining you tonight your inside linebacker extraordinaire for the Flight as well, Adam Chance. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how's it going? And let's not, extraordinaire might be a strong word. I'm working towards extraordinaire. I'm trying.
Mediocre.
Yeah, or maybe just ordinaire.
Ordinaire, there you go.
But I'm working towards extraordinaire, yeah.
Awesome. Great to have you guys both here. Both of you reached out to me, which was great. If anybody else watching wants to come on, reach out to us. We'll also be reaching out if we have openings as well for people who are showing an interest in being vocal and being public, or even that are quiet and we're like, hey, we want to know a little bit more about you. But that is in the future. So tonight, KJ, Adam, I have a couple questions for you. I've already sent them to you in preparation, so they're not out of thin air. But Daniel is usually the one who shares some of the more interesting off the wall questions for you. First, so let's start with you, KJ. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is KJ?
Well, first off, I am excited to be here, so thank you for having us, and to be able to talk about free market reform in Guam and the citrus farm products effect on the global economy, I think is a huge thing. So thank you for sending those questions.
Cut his mic.
Somebody sent him the wrong notes.
Did I get the wrong notes?
You got the wrong notes.
I'm sorry. SFL. There you go. That's what we're here for. No, I'm kidding, of course. A little bit about myself. My name is Christian, or KJ is my SFL alter ego. I'm a professional race car driver. Currently the test sim and development driver for a small IndyCar team known as Camaraderie Autosport, and working my way to an appearance with them in the Indianapolis 500. I do live here in Indianapolis for work. I've got a television development contract with Sharp Entertainment, the makers of Adam's favorite show, Jersey Shore. and 90 Day Fiance as well, which
Nice.
will document my journey to the Indianapolis 500. I'm a published author of a former Amazon top 10 best new releases book. It's my autobiography.
Yeah.
It's called My Life and Story, The Outside Groove, forwarded by the legendary Willie T. Ribbs, who, of course, if you know racing, was the first African American to ever race the Indy 500.
Awesome.
He's become a good friend of mine over the years. That can be found on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, Books A Million, and other fine retailers. I have also written a children's book with an introduction by the 1998 IndyCar Rookie of the Year, Robbie Unser. And anybody who knows racing knows just how much the Unser name means to the sport. So I was super fortunate to be able to do that with him. That book is called Faster and Faster, a children's guide to motorsport, and that's on Amazon Kindle. I'm currently writing my third book now called Worst Friend Ever, Why Your Ego Secretly Hates You and How to Get Back on Your Side. Just some things I've learned from being an athlete over the years. And as an athlete, man, it's kind of necessary that you have an ego. You can't really compete without it. The problem is as athletes, we don't know when to turn it off. And so that's what what this book is about. Because your relationship at home doesn't need your ego. Your parents don't need your ego. Your friends don't need it. It's for the field, the court, the track, whatever it is you do. And so that's what this book is about, how to leave it there and go home and just be you know? Beyond that, I am the U.S. events coordinator for a company called World Pro Racing. We put on simulated racing events, kind of similar to what the SFL does, but on the racing side. And I am an Iraq war veteran, recipient of 2 Army Commendation Medals for my time out there. I live with a cat. And sure, I'm biased, but it's only because I know she's listening. I have the greatest girlfriend this side of Mars. So hi, Rowena. Thank you for joining us. Her sister actually played the Pink Ranger, Rose, on Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, and I told her I'd give her a shout out too. So hi, Rhoda. And
Hi, Rhoda.
I guess. Yeah, hi Rhoda, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of cool to be a part of the Power Ranger family. And I'm starting up a foundation this year for children with disabilities who desire to become pro athletes. And so that's me. In a nutshell.
Wow. How do you
So not
find it?
much.
How do you find the time? Like I was gonna write this down, but my pencil ran out of lead. No,
Okay, everyone go home. We can't top this episode. Let's go.
well, no. What made you come into the SFL? Like, what about this is both what drew you here and what made you stick so far?
I'd say it's my involvement with World Pro Racing and what we do. So we are also a televised show. We produce some very high quality events that very much mirror what we do in real life, and we do it so well that I got to thinking, I wonder if anybody's doing this kind of a thing for any of the other sports. Football being my second favorite sport, I decided to look into it, and the simple Google search, Simulation Football League popped up, and I got to watching, and I said, wow, this seems like what they're doing is high level. They're the best. If I'm going to do something, I want it to be with the best. So it just makes sense for me to go ahead and jump in, and I joined the Discord. And I forgot what I said. I said something, and Adam replied to it. I think it was like my first day in the league or whatever, and he had just joined too. I said something, he replied to me, and then I replied back to him, and it just kind of snowballed. And now I can't get him to shut up. So,
and to think
yeah,
you guys ended up on the same team too, which is kismet in some ways, right?
Right, weird, but in a good way. It's that good kind of weird.
It's very serendipitous, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we seem to have a chemistry, which is nice. So
awesome.
Good to have that in a teammate.
Well, it's great to get to know you a little bit there. Everything that you're doing, Adam. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I like Christian just said, I've had the good pleasure of getting to know him a lot since we've both joined the league around the same time, and we've kind of been pinky in the braining this whole operation. We're like, because we're very invested in this thing. But that being said,
you're pinky, by the way.
I wasn't gonna point it out, but
no, you're pinky. All right.
We'll talk about this later. But I should have said, let me go first, because I knew he was going to be very professional in presenting himself, and I can't follow that up very well, but I'll try. I am a Southern boy. I was born down in the Floribama area, and went to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and eventually made my way to Nashville. I somehow, very luckily and fortunately, got pulled into the world of music. It was always kind of a hobby of mine. It took me through college, but then I eventually switched majors because I didn't want to end up being a music teacher. That's another long story, but uh, s- I guess the universe saw it fit to kind of bring me back into that world, and I've had the good fortune of being a professional, full-time touring musician for the past, geez, I guess 12 years now.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
Time flies, huh?
so yeah, it really does, man. And I'm currently my main gig is a country vocal group. We say we're the world's only all vocal country group called Home Free. We're big on YouTube. You can go check it out. And also do some solo work. I currently live on the West Coast, and yeah, I could go on, but I'm not good at plugging myself. I need to get a lesson from Christian, I think.
No, you need to
We're,
start writing some books or something, I guess.
yeah, exactly. I
Children's
gotta read
books.
some of his first so I can steal some stuff from him.
Oh,
There you go.
go.
So, Adam, KJ alluded to this a little bit too from his perspective. What has your SFLM journey been like so far for yourself?
It was similar in some ways because it was just a Google search that led me
Okay.
to this place. But I am a lifelong football fan. I'm a lifelong video gamer. I always will be, and those are two big aspects of my life. Um, when I when I'm on the road, touring life is not for everybody, but like big things that get me through are like being able to have time for both of those things. Football's big in my band too. All there are five of us in the band, and we're all huge football fans. So Sundays during the NFL season are big. Uh, so those two things combined somehow led me on a Google search. I don't even remember exactly what I was looking for, but like Christian said, I found this league, and you guys were doing it the best. And I loved everything about the presentation. It seemed very professional, and I joined the Discord kind of like dipping my toe in the first day, right? But it didn't take long after that for me to just dive in because the community here is so great. Everybody running the league is very helpful and very friendly. There's a great kind of mentality amongst all the players and coaches and everything. It's all in good fun, but people also take it very seriously, which I appreciate. Um, so that kind of drew me in, and I've been hooked ever since, and plan to be a part of it for a long time.
That's great to hear. I mean, I suffered from the same type of thing, dipping the toe in, and you're like, wow, the temperature is warm here. Let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Within hours, I was in there and having a lot of fun.
Exactly.
So
Same,
Hey,
yeah.
Axel, the way they're
Easy to do
talking,
here.
they sound like they have the same type of experience as we did when we
Yep.
first joined in.
Yep, same. We're Tacoma brothers, and this is where we ended up
Nice.
a year later. So
But
definitely.
wait a minute. Are you guys actually from Tacoma though?
No, just part of
Yeah,
the team.
I
Oh,
say
sure.
that because that's where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
Or to Compton, as we like to call it, in the streets. But thought you guys might have been the same. But you played for the Grizzlies, is that?
Correct. That is
Gotcha.
the fictional Tacoma team. Yes.
Gotcha.
KJ, tell me about your favorite moment so far. Is there any certain single moment that stands out to you at all?
Well, we've only had the one game,
Mm-hmm.
the preseason game, and I knew it was important for us to win that. At least it was very important to me because we only had the one opportunity. I wanted to make sure we made the most of that and built that confidence going in. So I think just being around my team for that whole experience, we had a good little group of guys who joined on the Discord, the voice chat. And we all kind of had a watch party
Oh, cool.
and watched the game together, and we're just talking about things and how it went. And it was a close one with Ottawa. Shout out to them and those boys and what they did. It was a classic game, but that had to be my favorite. It wasn't so much the moment of the game; it was being around my brothers on the team and just kind of feeling that camaraderie. I'm big on that, so that's been my favorite so far, and I look forward to doing more of that as the season goes on.
Absolutely. You'll get a lot of chances to do that come April. Adam, similar question. Do you share that same, was that one of your shining moments, was that game? Or is there something else that sort of stood out to you as sort of like a, this is really a great spot, or this is cool.
I mean, it's a lot of what he was just touching on. I feel very much the same about the camaraderie of the league. I mean, the first thing after I dove in and was watching all these games. There's so many fun moments in the games, close endings, shootouts, and the broadcasters getting into it is like one of the things that really drew me to the game. I was like, this is really well put together. These guys are like, you know, really amped up about these moments. It feels so real, which I know
Yeah.
is kind of one of the drawing factors to it. But the the biggest thing for me is exactly what Christian said, getting to kind of share these experiences with so many other cool people from so many different backgrounds is my favorite part about this. And I know we're only scratching the surface of that because we had our one preseason game, like he said, where we're in the voice chat. But I think that's probably going to be my favorite aspect of the SFL.
Mm.
I can tell you, I'm now in my, second pro season, and we do hop into the same type of audio chat and sitting there, watching the game and chatting with each other, just like we would be if we're sitting at the couch kind of thing
Yeah.
watching our game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that initially brought me in, and I was hoping for that. And I think I'll talk us up a little bit. I know we had to request a voice channel, because I know not all the minor league teams are doing it, but
Mm.
we're doing it over at the San Jose Flight.
Awesome.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
So KJ, tell me, so you're in the minors right now with the goal of eventually hitting the pros, right?
Correct.
To get to there, there's the draft in between. For
Mhm.
those general managers, those owners out there for the pro teams, looking at this when the draft draws near, whatever the term is. What are some ideal pro team characteristics? What are some things that you'd look for in a pro team that where you're like, this is sort of the type of place I want to be?
I'd like to be in an environment that really, um, how to put it, we take care of each other. That's more so what I'm looking for is a place where we really take care of each other. If you notice somebody's been missing in the chat for a little while, check on your buddy, man. It's something we did in the military. It's something I still carry over into my life now. Just check on your buddy, man. So I'm looking for something like that. I don't mind taking the initiative with that. I'm usually the first one in the SFLM chat if I haven't seen somebody for a little bit. I'd be like, "Hey, you dead?" You know. So right, right. Just checking up on people, but a place where they've got a winning attitude. I when I say winning attitude, I don't necessarily mean we're running up the scoreboard. I don't necessarily mean we're going undefeated. Although that stuff is nice, and I am very much here to do that. I mean a winning attitude in that we show up to work. We're not negative. We don't badmouth people. We don't talk behind people's backs. We're healthy. We're healthy individuals as human beings, and we help each other be healthier around us. That's kind of the locker room that I'm looking for. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. And Adam, similar question. What type of characteristics or qualities do you look for would you be looking for in a pro team?
I think something that I've learned in my career over the past decade or so is being surrounded by people that you enjoy being with is so important. And honestly,
Mm.
for what we do, just to continue that analogy for a second, I'd rather have someone that's a B at their job, but takes it seriously and is just a good person to be around and have a good time and still take the work seriously than
Yeah.
an A plus that's a jerk and burns bridges, right? And I kind of want something like that in my team. I want people to take it seriously. I want winning to be kind of the goal. I want the coaches to do the homework and the preparation, and I want everybody involved to be there and show up, but at the same time not take it overly seriously, but and be someone that's just fun to be around. I want like a good locker room. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think that again
But
is
like a
more,
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I want a good balance of those things, and I want to, because we're here to have a good time. We're here to find other fun people, even if they're not like-minded. Like-minded in the sport and what the SFL is all about, but people from all walks of life who can come together and have a good time doing what the league is built to do.
That is awesome. And I think both of what you described is really what I'd like to think of as, pro teams are striving for. That's, Daniel talking about, I know when you first were brought on to like Tulsa, like you were brought on, as one major part to help influence and boost that culture and like get people involved in the locker room and to have that camaraderie and that's a shining, almost as important, if not equally or even more important as what you can do on the field, right?
Oh, definitely. I was a person pick. I was a pick for my personality more so than what my player could achieve at the time because I was so young in the league. But being a culture person, I wanted to make sure that I wanted to bring as much as I can to the team, help the team as much as I can, and get people, feeling that flow that we need to succeed as a group, as a team. And just in one season, look how much we're changing. We're 5-3. We only had 2 wins previous season. We're actually making that shift. We got Doug now in. He'll be a great guy on the sim pod. All this has been changed in a matter of one season, and these are the type of people that people will pick over your stats as a player. People
Mm-hmm.
want the good guys over what you can do on the field.
Yeah. Well, Daniel,
That's great to hear.
I'm gonna hand it off to you. Do you have any questions for these two young fellas?
Sure. After my long-winded speech there, I'll go again.
Please do.
KJ, we read your resume. Very long, very successful. Do you think you want to do more in this league besides just being a player? Do you strive to do something more like Axel is looking to be an owner? Do you think you're going to make that next step as well?
Do actually. Obviously my primary focus right now is doing what I can for the flight. And I came in the league. I looked at the record. I saw that we didn't win a lot of games last season. So first things first, I want to help us win at least more games than we won last year. I'll know from that we're moving in the right direction. I think from there, it's about getting on to the draft. And when we get there, we have 24 teams. I want to make all other 23 teams regret not picking me up. Like, I want you to regret it so bad you can't sleep at night. Like, I need you to be tossing and turning in your bed, tapping your wife, like, honey, are you up? I need to talk about not taking KJ, right? That's what I want there. But as the time goes on and as I get more and more well versed with what's going on in the league, I do see myself as being an owner at some point. I think that I've got a lot of assets that I can bring to not just the team, but the league in general. And that's my biggest goal. I don't want to ever do anything that is solely, specifically just for me. I aim to not be a selfish person. I know that as human beings, that is a very challenging thing to do. But the more I can do that, the better I do feel. So I want to build an organization that helps this league become what I think it can be, because this thing has so much potential. It's got so much already going for it, but I can see it going into the stratosphere, man. And I am gonna do what I can at some point when I get that opportunity to bring it there. So if ownership is one of the ways to do that, then let's go ahead and own a team.
Excellent. Great. I love to hear that. I want that enthusiasm. I want to see that. Adam, I'm going to just do the same question. Do you strive to do something more in this league besides just being a player? Do you want to scout? Do you want to be a defense coordinator? Do you actually want to be an owner, perhaps?
Again, I'm going to stress that next time I'm on here, I need to put it in paper that I go before Christian. So everything he just said, and it's probably one of the reasons that he and I have become pals lately, but I agree with everything that he just said. As of right now, I've just been learning as much as I can about the league and the people in it, but I definitely see myself, and from day two, when I just, dove into this whole thing, being a big part of this for a long time, for the foreseeable future. I'm here for the long haul, and I, I love what the league's doing overall, and I want to be a big part of that. So ownership is definitely something I'm very interested in. And in the meantime, I'm just trying to learn everything that I can and get to know everybody here because, as I said, everybody's been very cool and very helpful, and it's just been a fun environment to be a part of.
Awesome.
Yeah, perfect. The community is definitely like the best part that we
Yeah,
have going for us.
yeah.
Me and Axel met
100%.
on SFL as well. We met here, and we've been best of brothers ever since, even though we're on different teams now.
Yep. Doing
See?
Yeah, I love that, and that's been my selling point for when I've been telling people about this. It's like we still kind of live in this world where things like esports haven't reached out. They're getting very popular, but they haven't reached out to everybody. And some people are like, that doesn't seem real. When I tell them it's hard to describe this, but that's one of my selling points. I was like, just give it a chance, come into the Discord and see what it's all about here, and I guarantee you'll be sold. So I'm gonna win a lot of friends over and try and be a good advertiser for the league and get some people in here. But that's gonna be my main selling point for sure.
Oh,
Cool.
man.
All right. Well, Adam, I'm going to give you the chance to be first this time. Adam, do you have any final words?
Question.
Do you have any final words for tonight before we say goodnight to you? And
No, I just appreciate you guys, and I want to just give a shout out to everybody who works so hard to make this thing happen, from the top to the bottom. From deputy commissioner, all the people who do the content here, all the way down to the casual players and rookies. Let's keep this thing going. Let's grow it to be something huge and that everybody knows about. I think it's already a blast to be here, and it's only going to get more fun as the league grows, I think.
awesome. And KJ.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It kind of mirrors what Adam said. I am coming at this from a spirit of appreciation, for just everyone who does their part, and that's my favorite thing about this place is that everybody's got a job and everybody does their job, and it's because everybody does their job that we have the product that we do, that we have something that we can be proud of, that we have something that we don't feel silly showing to our family. We don't feel silly showing it to our friends. Why? Because everybody does their job. And because of that, it's as quality as it is. There's nothing silly about this. There's nothing goofy about it. This is a very real thing to us, and it shows. And I just want to say I'm appreciative for everybody doing it, because without them, then it wouldn't be the way that it is. So just thank you to everybody, and go Flight.
Cool. Well, yeah. So, congrats! Thanks for coming on. You guys finished. You guys did great. And yeah, those tuning in right now, stay tuned for week 1. Watch the San Jose Flights this season, especially this defense with KJ and Adam back there, making a show out of every game. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you, bud. Have a good one.
Good night. All right, so that brings us now to Andrew. I've dubbed this. I've built a little title screen. We're going to call this "Understanding the Attributes" with Andrew Rastelli. So that is our little segment tonight, and probably for next week as well. I'm sure there's too many of them to go through, and I think last time it maybe even took 3 episodes to be able to get through them all. Yeah, we're gonna have a little chat with you about the variety of attributes that are out there, how they show up for different roles, which ones have certain attributes, and we're going to actually use the upcoming portal. Right now, the SFL, the pro teams are able to use the portal, and the SFLM is going to be getting that pretty soon. It might be days or weeks, but I'm pretty confident before the start of the season, you all be doing your progressions no longer in Discord, but in the portal, which I can tell you is so much better than in Discord. So, Andrew, tell me a little bit about attributes in general.
So, attributes are your core ability for your player. So, one thing I like to say about attributes compared to animations is that your attributes dictate your player's ability on every play, while animations dictate your player's ability in certain situations or in a percentage of plays. So your talent, your player's true ability is in your attributes. So that's what you need to focus on and what a lot of places will focus on before they want you to get kind of animations.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to share right now. I've got a little screen share right now of the portal, what you guys will eventually be seeing out there, what the pros see right now. So you can see the sort of work in progress, the San Jose flight. Oops, hit the wrong button. I'm going to go back to that. Here we go. So you can see the San Jose flight. You can see the other teams here. And then at the bottom here, you can see the players that are out there, right? You see your value, you see your position, and then you see the string of attributes at the top. And you see some are blocked out, which are either uneditable. They're sort of baseline. They don't change. You can't progress them. Some may not even. I think that's it. I think everybody has those attributes, regardless of what role they are, but they're just different levels. But so we just start at speed. That's a pretty basic one. It's one that
start at the head of the list.
Yeah. All right. So that's this speed right here, and you can see pretty much every except for kickers and punters, I believe, have a editable speed. The yellow determines or denotes primary versus white being secondary. And you guys, for those that have been progressing for a couple weeks, even 1 week, you probably have seen +5 versus +8 or +2 versus +4 for bronze players, etc. So when you progress, you're adding those numbers to your player. So for speed, I see like for quarterback, it's white, so it's a secondary trait versus yellow as a primary trait for pretty much all the other roles. I think there's it's fullback or maybe offensive lineman or something.
Speed is a primary attribute for all positions except for quarterback, offensive line, fullback, and that's it.
Okay.
And then kickers and punters are the only positions that can't progress it at all.
Okay.
So speed dictates the top speed your player can reach on the field, as dictated by the engine of the game. So in the SFL, 92 is the highest speed any player can have. It's only reachable from finesse running backs, wide receivers, and cornerbacks. That's it. No other positions can reach 92. In fact, no other positions can reach 90.
Okay.
They're the only ones that can get 90 or higher in speed.
And so you said it's pretty much your top speed. How is like acceleration up to that top speed determined? Is that standard for everybody, or is that based on like weight and height as well?
Weight and height do affect player ability. They affect player ability in the sense of changing direction. So in agility, gaining acceleration, which is actually also dictated by agility. And from my experience, height and weight also dictate your player's ability to be tackled or to make tackles.
Okay, so sort of
it's small, but it's there.
I equate that to sort of like maybe some physics or momentum kind of things in the back end. Okay. Is that pretty much it for speed? That it's just top speed. 92. You're gonna be running the 100 a little bit faster than the outside linebacker or not outside linebacker, the offensive lineman at 40. Let's say.
Right. Exactly.
But you said agility also is sort of another type of moderator to help. I mean, it relates to somehow how speed itself appears on, or how fast you get up to that speed, or how quickly you can move back and forth, or your twitch ability back and forth, or side to side even, or.
Yeah, agility dictates your acceleration and your ability to change direction while on the run. So it's a primary attribute only for wide receivers, running backs, and corners. They're the only ones. Everyone else, it's a secondary. And everyone thinks, you kind of think off your head like, oh, agility is primary for a lot of things, but it's not. It's really secondary for especially defenders that drop into coverage rather than trying to keep up with a receiver. So that's why your safeties and your linebackers, it's not primary there. It's valuable, but it's not primary because generally you're not keeping up with the receiver. Those positions drop into a zone more often than playing man. That's kind of the way that APF works.
Mm-hmm. And so those two combined for those specific, like you said, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, and cornerbacks are pretty much the ones that are really receivers. Pretty much anybody that can catch the ball, or those that are really man on man covering those that catch the ball.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And then so we've got so after that, so we've got speed and stamina. Check. Next we've got speed and agility. Check. Next comes stamina. That's the STA abbreviated one. And again, that's not progressible by all of them. It looks like some of them are just sort of hard coded for looks like quarterback and offensive linemen.
Yep. So quarterbacks, it's hard coded, and even the 50, I wouldn't even really say has any effect on them. Honestly, quarterbacks never get taken out for getting tired. So stamina, and to be honest, they do very little running, even in APF as a whole. Like, even though there's some scrambling quarterbacks built into the game really does kind of sit on the pocket passer. So these guys, they drop back and they throw. Mm-hmm. They might roll out, they might try and run away. It's not very common, mainly because most SFL quarterbacks have quick release and they throw, and they don't hold on to the ball for very long. So stamina as a whole, this is where a lot of people kind of get confused, because in APF, there's a stamina attribute and a fatigue slider. So fatigue dictates how tired your player is over the course of a given drive. Stamina dictates how tired your player is over the course of a given play. So, for example, Marcus Duncan with 75 stamina breaks one open from the 5-yard line. He's going to start slowing down at about the opponent 30, and he's going to get tired, and other players with higher stamina are going to be able to catch him because he's gotten tired on that play. Meanwhile, the fatigue slider is then going to look at Marcus and say, Marcus is tired and needs a rest, and we'll pull him and substitute him in for the backup.
Gotcha. And it looks like
by SFL standards, that probably wouldn't happen anyway. But that's kind of how stamina works in APF.
Okay. And so again, to validate or to share this information with those watching that are sort of new, the fatigue slider and pretty much all sliders are things that are not hard coded out, that are decided upon prior to the season, mandated sort of by the league, and the games are run with that set of sliders for the duration of that season, and thus things change during the off season or other things are voted on, et cetera. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the sliders are in your gameplay settings in APF, and they affect every single player on the field. An attribute affects an individual player.
Okay.
And for the SFL, our sliders are default for the game. So all we do is set the difficulty to legend and go with what the game sets.
Cool.
And there have been no other changes made through any kind of voting from owners. Owners are allowed to propose rules to change those things, but right now the kind of consensus from owners on sliders is that unless you're testing it, then there's no reason to change it and prove that it actually has the desired effect instead of just guessing.
Sure. And so looking at the stamina, the list here for the variety of different rules, both offense and defense, it seems like it's ranging between 70 and 80. And I think for the most part, all of these minor league players have not probably put any points to their stamina. So these are sort of the baseline. I believe you can go up to like 80 or 90 depending on your position, I believe. Between 70 and 90 is like that somewhere in there most positions are ranging.
Yeah, I want to say for positions that can progress stamina, the lowest is 70, and it's right there on your defensive line. And then the highest is linebacker and no, just I think
And-
it's linebacker and fullback. They start at 80. I
Okay.
wanna say.
And it looks like they all sort of go up to 90 as that maximum.
90 is the max. Yeah,
Okay.
across the board.
Okay. So next, so we described how that sort of plays out on the field, the how long you can stay out there before being swapped or pulled for a play to catch your breath, to go sit down, get some oxygen, kind of thing, during a drive down the field. Next is durability, and that's
Right.
not progressible by anybody, and it looks like it is a standard 80.
It's progressible by fullbacks only.
Okay.
And the reason being is because when I went through all positions and changed from tier to tier to tier, the only position where a different tier had a different value and durability was fullback. Everyone else, durability is 80 across the board. Whether you're a copper or a gold, it's 80. So we just didn't touch it, because what durability is supposed to do is dictate whether or not your player can get injured.
Mhm.
And for some reason, they felt that gold fullbacks should have 90, but nobody else.
Okay.
So that's why it's in there. Injuries is another slider like fatigue. So that slider would affect everybody. I've done a whole bunch of testing on injuries myself. I haven't seen durability really make a difference, because the slider really does control everything there. So.
And if those that are new, that haven't watched much regular SFL games to see what happens with an injury, ultimately, even though it may in the game say, "Oh, Joe Schmo is out for 8 weeks," they're just pretty much out for the remainder of the game. They come back. When the saying of "we have the best doctors in the world because we're able to heal them for the next game," just for those that are curious out there how those work. Next is accuracy for quarterbacks specifically. That is this ACC. And that, again, accuracy, and we could probably pair that with pass strength. These two are next. And it looks like pretty much I don't think anybody else should be throwing the ball. So
yeah.
Um,
So
Not
we'll just
anyway.
we'll just touch all the QB ones right here all at once. So
Okay.
you have pass accuracy, which just shows its accuracy in the portal. Pass strength, read coverage, which is RD, CVG, a couple columns over, and composure, which is the one next to that. So pass accuracy obviously dictates your ability to throw the ball to the receiver accurately. It allows the quarterback to try to avoid defenders, as well as not over, under throw, things like that. Trying not to throw in front or behind of the receiver, and trying hitting them right in the numbers in the middle of a route. So that's what accuracy is.
Okay.
Passing strength is pretty self-explanatory. How far can you throw the ball? And that's pretty much all it is. It's just how hard can you throw it, so therefore how far can you throw it. And then pass read coverage is the ability for so there's a couple theories. The main one is it's the ability for the quarterback to avoid defenders on a throw, like and go through the progressions and find the open receiver. So it's trying to not throw to a player that is double covered. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different attributes working against the quarterback there. You have the coverage rating of all the defenders near that receiver. You have all of their speed and agility, and all those things are working against the one quarterback. So it's a nice attribute to have, but he's kind of getting ganged up on when it comes to that particular attribute.
It's a
Gets
very
canceled out pretty easily in my opinion.
it's a very dynamic situation that it's trying to manage the game itself with
Exactly.
the one attribute managing that, which it that's why we see interceptions from maxed out gold quarterbacks because it is a dynamic situation downfield.
Composure. So APF has a mechanic built in where the more times your quarterback is hit, not necessarily sacked, but hit, he throws the ball, he loses accuracy and read coverage, and like his attributes start to drop, and that's his composure. Basically, you turn into Carson Wentz. You get hit a couple times, and then you can't throw the ball anymore. So it's a good attribute to have. You kind of have to look at the pro teams and see who's getting sacked a lot. Like, a good example is Tom Pepper gets sacked a ton, but he is always leading the league in passing. So he's, and not just in yards, like in QBR, like he's still an efficient passer, even though he's taking punishment. And it's a good example of how the composure attribute works.
Okay. Very cool.
So we can double back to strength now.
Yeah.
So strength works for, I think, all positions except for kicker and punter.
Okay.
So for your offensive positions, the theory is that strength helps your ball carriers resist tackles to a degree, makes them a little bit harder to bring down. They have that strength involved. It has no bearing on their ability to run, jump, or throw anything. It's all about whether or not they can resist those tackles that are coming in. For your offensive linemen, it counteracts the strength attribute of who they're blocking. In addition to their special attributes of run and pass blocking, strength is factored in as well. And then for defenders, strength comes into play and kind of helps them make tackles. So you'll see that your very strong defenders are your defensive linemen, and then your linebackers, and then your safeties, and then your weakest defenders are generally your corners. And your corners are up against what are generally the smallest, fastest, lightest players on offense, which is the receivers. They don't need that strength. So even though there is a tackle attribute that you see over there, which does help with tackling, strength apparently is part of that algorithm as well, and helps players dictate whether or not the ball carrier goes down.
Gotcha. So it's sort of a tandem, primary, secondary. They sort of work on the field in the process of tackling. Like tackling itself, I imagine, is more of like the knowing how to wrap around, getting the right, do I go do the shoelace? Like how do I get a better hold? And then the other one is, will I drop them? Will I take them down? Will I not let up and let them go, kind of thing?
Right.
Cool.
Next is jump.
Yep.
Which is pretty self-explanatory. How high can you jump? And there's literally no other use for it. There are times when there is a jump ball between a receiver and a defender, and it will dictate who gets higher for the jump ball.
Do you know if it's pretty objective based on the position and or height of individuals? Like if a 5'9" person has their max of like 75 jumps, let's say they jump a foot. If a 6'5" person jumps, would they just also jump a foot if there was both 75 the same number? Do you know, or if it's
yes?
Okay.
So essentially, the jump attribute dictates how high a player can jump from ground level, essentially.
Okay.
The taller you are, obviously, you can reach over those.
Compounds that, yeah.
But this is where we talked about height and weight. So weight would somewhat dictate your player's ability to jump.
Okay.
So even though your defensive linemen already have a low jump rating in the 40s, you'll notice that the tackles are at 40, but defensive ends are at 45 because they're generally lighter, more trim, and but their weight is also generally lighter. You don't usually have a 320-pound defensive end trying to rush the outside.
Yeah.
So it does come into play. Again, a little bit, but it does come into play.
Okay. Cool. So then we got through read coverage and composure already. So next is run route, and that's pretty much receivers, right? Anybody that's going to go down and catch a ball. So that's running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers.
So run route's an interesting one because most people, when you tell them, "Oh, what does run route do?" and they're going, "Oh, it's how well do you run a route?" It's not. It's how fast do you run a route. So a player that has 40 speed and 90 run route is going to run that route at 90 speed. But then when they finish the route, they're going to drop down 40. So it's only how fast do they get through that route. And then you see it a lot in running back. So you get those times where like the running backs are running out on that wheel route or that swing route, and they get to the sideline too fast. Run route.
They're too
They
high.
got there too fast, but then the quarterback throws, so now they're stuck in a catching animation, and now they run out of bounds and catch the ball like in front of the cameraman.
Gotcha.
So that's where you'll see that happen a lot. I look at run route for running backs, and considering a lot of the routes that SFL teams generally run, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a lot of very short routes. Well, if you want to keep them in bounds, I wouldn't have them get there as fast as possible. And even if it was run route ability, how much route ability do you need to run to your left for 10 yards and then stop?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so that's why it is one that wide receivers, tight ends should very well focus on, because it's important to get around zones, get around defenders. That speed is important. But for something like a running back or a fullback, not so much.
So you talked about speed not having them being two sort of separate things during the route running. Mm-hmm. How does agility play in with that? Does agility help the receiver that say run a post corner route faster or crisper or anything, or is that still just dictated by the run route?
So that is mostly dictated by the run route.
Okay.
However, the animation route God will allow that. What it does is it opens up more animations for that receiver to run their route, and that will definitely dictate a more crisp route. Like hitting, you look at the diagram, and as soon as that thing turns in, like on the field, that is where that guy turns in as soon as he's there, assuming he hasn't been bumped off by the defender. But like it is that's why Route God is probably the most popular wide receiver animation, is because it gives that assurance that your guy hits those routes exactly the way that he's supposed to, and generally that should help him get open.
Very cool. All right.
Next, aggressiveness.
Oh, coverage.
So aggressiveness coverage. I'm sorry. Coverage is pass coverage specifically. So that dictates the defender's ability to keep up with the receiver during the route. So that means that they also in zone coverage, to properly release and change to the next receiver that enters the zone. Like one guy's running through the zone and he exits. Well, now I got to change over to the guy that now entered my zone. Coverage helps with all that. It is important with linebackers. For some reason, defensive tackles have been given. Is it defensive ends?
I think both of them, cover eight, drop tackle. The tackle steps back and it's now.
So since there's those plays, they get a coverage. They get a coverage rating. So, use it at your own risk, if you will. But it does dictate how that defender sticks with receivers when they're supposed to be in a coverage assignment.
Okay. And that's pretty much, I guess it makes sense that it's a primary attribute for linebackers and all defensive backs back
Yes.
there. They're the ones dropping back into those zones. So that makes perfect sense. Where it's sort of a maybe if it could be the last thing you progress, if anything, if you're looking for something to progress when you become a gold for defensive linemen. Because and you mentioned it being important. I know, I guess outside linebackers a lot of times go out and they're dropping to coverage on both sides. Inside linebackers, I'd say more often than even not, drop back into middle coverage fairly often. So it is a pretty, it might be like a sneaky attribute that actually could help in the passing game.
Yeah, linebackers, even though they drop a lot of interceptions, it still counts as a pass deflection. They are important in breaking up those passing plays.
Cool. So next then is aggression. You were getting too aggressive with aggression there.
I got over aggressive. So aggressiveness I think it fools a lot of people because aggressiveness, think about it from that aggression, like my player wants to rush in and make a play. In APF, all it dictates is whether or not you are aggressive towards a ball in the air. Period. Full stop.
Wow.
That's it. So it's essentially the ball hawk attribute. And so when a ball is in the air, will your player make a play on that ball, or will he hang back for the receiver to catch it first and then make a tackle? Okay. So that's kind of where that is. So someone with ball hawk is essentially jacking that up to 1,000, and that's why it puts them in a position to make a lot of interceptions, and why it puts them completely out of position and they get burned on a route because they make a play on a ball that they had no chance on, and now the receiver caught it 7 yards behind them and they're making a break for it. So that's why that ball hawk animation is more, it can be dangerous. It's a real risk and reward thing. Aggression is less so, but is essentially the same function.
Interesting. And I guess that's same type of thing for both offense, for wide receivers, tight ends going up for that ball versus the defensive back trying to block that. They're going to be trying to jump that, get up there, make those leaping grabs if they need to because they want to get there first.
Okay. Exactly.
Cool. I had no idea that it had to do with. I thought it had to do with like how aggressively you pursue an attacker or a ball carrier or something. Okay. All right. So tackle.
Yeah.
That's we talked about how this sort of pairs nicely usually with strength as well. But tackle itself, tell me more about tackle.
Tackle is not just about the ability to bring someone to the ground, but it's also the defender's ability to hold on and resist the break tackle attribute, which I'm going to cover right now because it's right next to it.
Do it.
So tackle and break tackle essentially butt heads whenever there's a tackling animation involved, right? So the highest tackling attributes are held by the front seven. Your linebackers and your defensive line can all go to 90 tackle, I think. Scratch that. I think defensive tackles can only go to like 85 tackle or something. So 80 tackle, yeah. Or
it looked like 90 for defensive tackle.
Well, I think maybe it's defensive ends. I don't know. Either way.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else comes in very much under 88. Yeah. Comes in very much under max tackle. So those big guys are essentially the guys that can really hold on and are difficult to escape. But at the same time, your running backs are the only positions that can get to 90 break tackle. Specifically, your power running backs. the balance can only get to 85, and the finesse can only get to 80 break tackle. So they're easier to bring down once you catch them, but supposedly, finesse backs are harder to catch. You actually have to grab them. So that's where all those kind of animations work together. So you have a finesse running back, you can probably bring them down easier, but you got to catch them first. The power running backs, you can catch them, but you're going to have a harder time bringing them down.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool, that makes sense. And I just didn't really even think about how there's sort of the battle of the two offense versus defense attributes, just pretty much going head to head. It's almost, Daniel and I are, and I know you are as well, big D&D type of players.
Yep.
So it's like you've got your player sheet in front of you, and you're like, what are my attributes, and rolling dice, and you're seeing what the numbers happen, and that's just what's happening. We just get to see the visual part of that on the field.
Yep, you got your attack modifier and you got your AC. And whoever wins.
Cool. So next up is catch. Not a cat, just catch.
Yeah, catch.
Yeah.
Catch is pretty self-explanatory. The ability for the receiver to hold on to the ball, right? So, is it tight end that can go to, I believe, 95? Or no, they can go to 95 aggression. So yeah, so tight ends and receivers go to 90 catch, and they have the highest catch in the game. No one else gets that high. I think even running backs only go to 75 catch, and then obviously the only defenders that can catch the ball are linebackers and DBs, and linebackers can only go to 30 catch, and DBs can only go to 40. So that's why you see a lot of drop passes. A lot of people complain about not drop passes, dropped interceptions. A lot of people complain about dropped interceptions. I think this is just something you have to see as a way that the game interprets a pass deflected, right? So even though it's making that like catch ball animation and it just bounces off the sides of their hands and then they just watch it drop to their feet, it's frustrating to watch because you're thinking about it from a real life standpoint, but from a I made a video game standpoint, it's just how they made that animation. Like, I'm going to turn around. They have the big SWAT animation, but it's almost always for a ball that's at a certain height above that player's head. If it's coming at them, they try to catch it, but that's that animation. But then the attribute comes in and dictates whether or not they actually make the interception. So that's why it always looks goofy, like linebackers just watching a ball like hit the sides of their hands and fall to the ground. It's frustrating, but it's just
it makes
the
sense
way that it was animated.
And even in the league itself, I know we've got our share of interceptions. I think in general compared to more the real life league, I think we tend to have more interceptions, I think, than typical. So even it's
Right.
moderating that anyways, making it at least even.
Exactly.
I would hate to see 8 or 9 interceptions a game be the norm if people were able to get 60 catch on a DB or something.
Yep. So the next two are your blocking attributes, run and pass block. It's pretty self-explanatory. One thing that is important is that run blocking has no effect on a pass play, and pass blocking has no effect on a running play. This is important because if your quarterback decides to make a break for it, your run block is not coming into play. Basically, just going strength for strength. But at the same time, if you skip over secure ball there, you have pass rush and run coverage on the defender side, which is basically the opposite one that butts heads. So your pass rush is not effective on a running play, and your run coverage is not effective on a passing play. So therefore, it's just kind of like down to your nitty-gritty attributes of speed, agility, and strength, and just trying to catch the player and bring him down.
Just brute force, pretty much.
Just brute force at that point. So your blocking attributes dictate your ability to hold a block for as long as possible, and your pass rush dictates the defender's ability to shed a block and pursue the quarterback. Not just get through the block, but also pursue the quarterback.
Okay.
Run coverage is a little bit different. It doesn't quite do anything with run block. What it does is it dictates the player's ability to recognize a run and pursue. So when you have a linebacker drop into coverage and the ball gets handed off, a high run coverage linebacker will be able to stop what they're doing, change gears, and pursue that ball carrier. And that's where run coverage kind of has its own category there. It doesn't really have a conflicting attribute that goes against it. It just helps your defender recognize the situation and react.
And then it's up to your basic attributes, your physical abilities of speed, agility, strength.
Speed, agility, strength, tackle. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to catch them.
Very cool.
Secure ball is your player's ability to hold on to the ball. So the only positions that have this are running back, wide receiver, tight end, fullback, and that's it. Except for a defensive back with the return specialist animation. If they get return specialist, if you go to Lincoln,
yep,
and you go to Frankie. So he's got return specialist. So even though it's still black there, it's right there. It's next to the 2060. Yeah. See, even though it's black there, it's still progressible.
Okay. I'm going to
click. I think if you click on him, you might see the slider. I'm not sure.
Yep. Secure ball.
Yep.
And so does that automatically bump it from 40 to 60?
It automatically bumps it to 60, and it's progressible to 90.
Okay.
So so I just maxed it out because that slider I think is incorrect, or gotcha. I'm incorrect. I guess I have to look into that now because I'm pretty sure it bumps it up.
And how, just so that we continue that conversation, so kick returners and punt returners are by default wide receiver number 3. Is that correct?
Correct.
Unless somebody has the return specialist, which then gives them that unique ability to return balls and gives them that secure ball, because right. That's important when you're getting it and then just being hit 5 yards, 1 yard down the field.
Yeah. So return specialist on your wide receiver 3 is a wasted animation. But it's required for anyone else to return, and only wide receivers and defensive backs are allowed to return. That's an SFL rule.
Okay.
So you can't have your running back return kicks. You can't have your tight end return kicks, etc.
Gotcha. All right. So next, we talked already about pass rushing and run coverage. So we can, unless there's anything else, do you want to talk about those?
No, okay. Actually, I want to skip to consistency because it covers 4 players.
Sure.
So consistency is the only attribute that is used by every position. So consistency has theories. You don't 100% know what this attribute does. The best theory we have is that it's like we're talking about D&D. It's almost like your modifier. It dictates your player's ability to play at the highest level that their attributes allow, right? So it helps your defender make that tackle. It helps your defensive lineman break that block and get to the quarterback. It helps your quarterback throw the extra 2 yards needed to make that big pass. Like it helps. It doesn't, it's not game breaking in any way. You can't necessarily see it at work unless you watch a lot of sims. You can kind of see it at work, but it helps. The other theory is that it dictates, and I've seen this be a less popular theory, is that it dictates how often your animations activate. I could see that, but I don't have any real experience to say that I could say that I've seen that I've seen that effect. I feel like I've seen the other effect more distinctly. So I would say that's the best way to put it. And a lot of SFL teams owners and coaches put a lot of value in this attribute, and it is only primary for quarterbacks. It's secondary for everybody else.
Okay.
Even though it appears to be yellow down there for the kicker, that's probably just a coloration error because the value is calculated.
Oh, it's actually
no, that was the secondary. That's just the second quarterback spot. Yeah, so it's only primary for quarterbacks. It's secondary for everybody else. So it's actually progressed pretty easily. Now, the positions that start with the lowest consistency is running back. Starts at 40.
Holy cow.
It's a grind to get that to 90. Now, everyone has a max consistency of 90, except for offensive linemen, which gets capped at 80. That's just where the game put it. I don't know why, but that's just the case. But everyone else gets it to 90. The other lowest consistency is tight end. I think it starts at 50.
It looks like linebackers might as well.
Linebackers start at 50. That's what it is. Yeah. And then there's a couple that start like mid 50s, like 54, 57, something like that. So like it can be quite a grind to get consistency up to the highest level, but you're going to see a lot of owners, coaches, and teams that want to see it higher before you start committing to anything like an animation, because they do see the value in it.
So
for the kicker attributes,
yeah.
We forgot to do scramble with the quarterbacks. Oh, we'll do kickers first. So the kicker attributes, power and accuracy, is pretty straightforward. How far can you kick it, and can you kick it through the middle? That sums that up. And scramble. So scramble does not dictate your quarterback's ability to run. Speed dictates your quarterback's ability to run. Scramble dictates your quarterback's ability to throw while running. Think like an Aaron Rodgers, right? He's famous for rolling out and like doing that kind of half leap throw across the body thing, and then he just hits it in the numbers because he's disgusting. So that is scramble. It doesn't make you Michael Vick or Lamar. It doesn't make you that. It makes you a good throw on the run. End of story.
And or so when throwing on the run, is there like a hit that you would take? Does it negate that hit?
It negates
or something
no,
like that?
it lessens it.
Okay.
So essentially, if you throw on the run, you lose power and accuracy because you're probably throwing off your back foot, and you're probably and you're definitely not as accurate because you're running away from 300 pounds of dude. So it's not progressible until you got what you're pointing here, the scrambler animation. Yep. When you get the scrambler animation, it goes from the base 30 up to, I think, 60, and it's progressible to 90. So the scrambler animation, even though it's a low value animation, comes with extra cost, essentially extra cap hit, because your scramble attribute gets bumped 30 points, which is equal to like not 3 value points, but like 2 point something value points for a quarterback. So it does have that extra cost to it.
Interesting. And I know there's not many that run with scrambler. I think last year, JQ Daniel, didn't he have scrambler? And
he had it last season, but he took it off this season.
Gotcha. So it probably didn't see benefit to it last season, if not maybe even was detrimental to some of his abilities or something.
I mean, it's very valuable if you're going to be having your quarterback rolling out. And you don't see a lot of that in the SFL. You don't see a lot of rollouts. And a lot of that is because, at least in the AI sims, it takes too long. And so in order for them to finish that rollout animation, they get sacked. Mm-hmm. And it's like a free sack, essentially. It's why you don't see a lot of tosses, is because essentially it's guaranteed TFL, because by the time the running back gets that toss, the blocking isn't quite right, and it just they get nailed in the backfield for loss of 3.
Especially if you're going up against like 2 gold defensive ends, and they're
exactly.
Gotcha. So that pretty much covers all of them. Daniel, do you know were there any questions in the chat at all that we'd like to talk about?
I don't see any questions in the chat, but I just want to make a point to you'll hear this from the owners a lot. I always work on attributes before animations. The owners will see attributes first. This is how you're going to progress into line. Always, and I know once you jump from copper to bronze, you can get your first animations. Even silver, you get animations then as well. You might want to do it because you see it, and it's like, oh, all these people got cool animations. But I always work on attributes first. There are your foundation.
They're what happens 100% of the time. That's your player, right?
Yeah, it completely dictates your player. Like that is how you're when you have coaches and GMs talk about your build, that almost entirely is about your attributes and your height and weight to a degree and your animations, but your attributes are really the core of what that phrase really means.
Okay. And you'll probably be hearing a lot more of that if you haven't already if you haven't had discussions with your coaches, if they haven't helped you put together a progression plan, that's ultimately, I think, where they're now you're a lot more educated. Those watching, those new, learning this for the first time, those of you that do know this a little bit, more power to you. But ultimately, I like to think of progression plans and build creation as sort of a collaborative sport. Like I think drawing on minds of people that have been there, we're just talking with you, Andrew, who's been doing so much testing over the years to see how these play out, to better understand, well, if I want to play sort of like this type of person, or if my defensive coordinator or coach wants to play this kind of defensive scheme, it helps to have a certain type of build, so that will help dictate the type of progression that you can do and the type of player that you end up becoming out on the field. So I think, if you have questions, reach out to us, reach out to your coaches, or anybody on your team would be willing to, I'm sure, have conversations about it. So, well, any last words about animations? Attributes, Andrew?
No, I'm glad we pushed through and got through all of them.
Yeah, I'm surprised we were able to. I'm like, we were getting to, like, I think catch or secure ball, and I'm like, we're really close. Let's keep going. So I'm glad we were able to get it all in one as well. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Those of you also, I hope this was valuable for you. I did want to mention both Daniel and I, along with special co-host as well, will join us on Friday night. We'll be hosting the third preseason game, Madison versus Annapolis, on Friday night. Same place, same time as you are here tonight. So looking forward to that as well. But other than that, I think that's really it. I hope everybody had fun tonight. Welcome back. Starting off with some really great content that I think is going to go a long way. If you have questions, you can always refer back to this. This will be both up as a video on demand in Twitch for the next 2 weeks, I think, is the timeline that I have. Tonight, I'll be downloading it and putting it up on my YouTube so that we can reference it in perpetuity in the future. And so if you have questions, if anything, you can always refer back to this as well. And this is the start. Episode 1 is pretty much almost to be in the books. So, Daniel, any final words for tonight?
My final words is thank you for Adam and KJ for coming on to the show, the first interviews of the new season. So super glad to have them here. And look forward to Friday, guys, because the last 2 preseason games, they were like 2 points, 1 point. They were very close margins, so I'm expecting another good one come Friday.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, again for joining us tonight. Thank you, Daniel, for coming as well. And thank you all in the chat hanging out here with us tonight. And look forward to seeing you on Friday night and next Wednesday. So with that, I bid you all a good night and have a good night. Bid you adieu. There you go. All right. Good night, everyone.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.